Hey everyone, good evening. Hope all is well. We'll give people a few minutes to log on here. It is Thursday, February 9th. When I'm recording this video, you might be watching it at a different time. When I record it, I'm recording it live at this time. It's almost 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, so wherever you're watching. I'm Michelle Frary. I'm the Member of Parliament for Peterborough-Kawartha. And I wanted to jump on here tonight because, I think sometimes what we see in politics is it, it disheartens people. They don't think a lot gets done, or it's a waste of time. And as somebody who sits in the House of Commons every day, I understand how many people feel that way. But it's also important to highlight when we do really important work and things do get done, and MPs do work across party lines or partisan lines, which, for those of you, I try to talk to everyone as though if you follow politics closely or if you don't follow politics closely. And so, hi, Don Schwartz. Nice to see you watching from Nova Scotia. So within being an MP, many of us sit on a committee or multiple committees. I'm fortunate enough I sit on two committees, one of which is status of women. And the way that things work in the House of Commons is you have first reading, second reading, third reading, and then it will go to the Senate. So what happens at the first reading is whomever is presenting the bill, it can be a private member's bill, which would mean it would be a member of Parliament who is not in government per se, because the government is the only one that would present bills. Now, there's a little bit of semantics here when we say the government. Technically, I'm not in government. I am the opposition, but I do work on Parliament Hill, which is where government happens, but I am technically not in government. So you would have a first reading, which is where you read the bill into the House, and then the second reading, you read it, you debate it in the House, and it's usually sent to committee to be studied. Then it comes back to the House after that, based on what happens in committee, and you have another vote. And it's either passed or not. And if it's passed on the third reading, and everybody votes, or there's a vote of yes, and the vote wins, it goes to the Senate. Then the Senate does their work, and then it receives royal assent based on what happens in the Senate. If it doesn't pass through the Senate, it can come back to the House yet again. So one of the bills that was brought to committee while I was on status of women is called Keira's Law. Now, I'm going to give a warning to everybody because I do feel like some people are pretty sensitive to a lot of what's happened in the news in the last few days. There's been a lot of really heartbreaking images, and for some people, it's just been a lot, especially when we look at the welfare of children. So here's a trigger warning about the case. If you don't want to hear about domestic violence or children being harmed, turn this video off, because it is a shocking and horrible, awful story, but it is an important story because it was preventable. Keira, beautiful, bright, light, wondrous, curious little girl, 4 years old. I never had the opportunity to meet Keira, but learned a lot about her from her mom, Jennifer. And Keira's death, she was murdered by her father, a murder-suicide. So very preventable death. And so the law that was put forth, or the bill that was put forth, is Bill C-233, or known as Keira's Law. And Jennifer, Keira's mom, is just an absolute powerhouse, and Jennifer's husband, Phil. And they've worked tirelessly to bring awareness to a major gap in the system of judges being informed on domestic violence. Jennifer knew something was wrong and cried from the rooftops to say something was unwell with her ex-husband, that he was not in a good state, and they didn't listen. He had shown signs of coercive behavior. So for anybody who knows domestic violence, coercive behavior is very dangerous. And so this was a case of domestic violence. Cried from the rooftops, and to no avail, and it ended in complete tragedy. The father took Keira to a location hiking, and they plunged off of a cliff, and they both died. So it is considered a murder-suicide. Very, very tragic death and preventable. So Jennifer has put forth, alongside her husband Phil, this 233. They've worked with parliamentarians, and it was a Liberal MP, Pam Damoff, who actually tabled it in the House, and it is to ensure that judges are better educated and trained to recognize the signs of domestic violence so that this never happens again. So that you can say, okay, we've got some red flags here. We understand coercive control. We understand all of these signals of domestic violence. This is unsafe, and it puts the child safety first. So it came to committee. Very, very proud of my work on this, and very proud of all of our work on this, that this is something that I can say when I look back that I was part of doing this and working across party lines to ensure that this bill is passed. So we studied it in committee. We heard testimony from Jennifer is very heartbreaking, very powerful. And now, today, it is before the Senate. And so, what we want to do is we want to ensure that it goes what's called clause by clause. So it goes through every aspect of the bill, and we want it to pass fastly and swiftly. Because each minute that this bill isn't passed is another day when a judge doesn't have the training, resources, and tools to recognize signs of domestic violence and potentially save another tragedy like Keira's. So I just wanted to point that out, that there are good things happening, and there are people who are making a difference, who use their voice. And unfortunately, Jennifer's life and tragedy is awful, but it is going to help so many. And it's kind of the sad, beautiful part of all of this is Keira used to wear this T-shirt saying, "I want to change the world," and she is going to change the world through this law. And we're going to ensure that judges are better informed, and that signs of domestic violence are recognized, and that we can keep children safe. So thank you for joining me and watching this video. I know maybe I've been a bit long-winded, but I think it's really important to share this, and I would ask that you share it, and to ensure that it's, if you hear of it, to get it passed in the Senate. You can write to your MPs, you can write to senators, but we're really hopeful that all parties, all senators, everybody recognizes the value of this, and these are the things we can put in place today to have prevention. So I want to thank Jennifer and Phil and all the people who worked on this. And this is actually a constituent of Melissa Lanceman, a colleague of mine. So she's worked tirelessly on this too, and worked alongside them. And I just want to take a minute and remember Keira. So thank you guys for watching. And there is good things. You just have to look around for them.